horses, Donnie, who is not going to any shows, and this is Finley in his pink hat, who is going to the London International Horse Show. You can go next year if you're good. Yeah. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is clipping, which is the most difficult thing I think for preparing for your winter show. I clipped Finley at like September, October time, and then I recorded the best day afterwards where his coat looked perfect. So I clipped him with the cover coat blades, which are 5mm, because Finley's coat does not react well to being clipped with normal blades. He looks like a skinned rat. Greys generally are harder to clip. Once I knew the best time frame to clip him, I've left him 3 weeks, because usually it would be about 2.5, but looking at the weather in December, it's snowy, it's wintry, it's horrible. It takes a lot longer for the coat to grow back because there's not as much daylight, because it's like just overcast and miserable, a bit like today. So I've clipped Finley 3 weeks in advance, and then I have rugged him in a heavyweight rug with a hat because he's had his face clipped and I don't want his head to grow at a different rate to his body. Then we have rigorously hot oiled him every other day, basically, to get all the dust out of his coat and keep it oily and glossy and nice, like a summer coat. In the winter, their coat just doesn't get that lovely shine and gloss like it does in the summer. It's not seeing the sunlight, it's under a rug, it's harder to keep the coat dry and nice and conditioned. So we've clipped with cover coat blades. That was my first top tip. I wouldn't if it was with Donnie, who's super fluffy and has a very dark glossy coat, but with Finley I've needed to, because yeah, greys and coloured ponies, they look like skinned rats when they've been clipped. So it's hard. You can always clip it off, but you can't put it back on. So the next thing with Finley's coat is grooming. I washed all his brushes when I clipped him. They went in the washing machine, so I'm not then rubbing dirty brushes all over him. So that's just another thing to take into account. I've also clipped Finley's legs to the knee and blended down. That way you don't have the lines, you know, like across the top of the legs, which can draw the eye of the judge and kind of make them look leggy. They just look like they've got a summer coat. Is Finley's tail, which has been pulled already for London. And a tip to keep the tail looking really nice is keep on top of the pulling and the trimming so it doesn't go like a bog brush. Keep the tail clean, even though his tail is a bit dirty right now. And if you start to think like when you pull it initially, we use a tail rake, then put on a wet tail bandage to keep it all like slick. So that really helps. And on the day I will be putting on like some brill cream or some plaiting cream, and then putting the tail bandage on to make it look really nice. This is his booty. I mean, you can still see faint clipper lines here, but it's pretty good. And we've got another 5 days yet until he goes in the ring. And hopefully there's just enough fur to get some quarter marks on too. I also like to have a bit of a practice plaiting. Practice makes perfect, like the saying is, and I've got a really big show coming up, so I find the winter a really good time to just practice my skills, and once I'm happy with my skill, I'll put it into practice for a show. I've just got Finley tacked up and ready to ride, but I just thought I would show you guys Finley's clip, which was done just over 3 weeks ago. I think it'll be 3 weeks tomorrow that it was done. And these are his legs, which have been done with cover coat, and you can see from the knee I turned my clippers around and the hair's longer. And then I just trimmed around the front of his coronet band with a little pair of trimming scissors. He's had his face clipped, his ears clipped, but I've got to go inside his ears yet and do that. And then we did a face blend on his face, like I literally just clipped around his eyes and to his nose, and then I blended down, so this hasn't been clipped. And this is his bottom, looking very good. The keys to getting a good clip is to give them a hot shower before you clip them and make sure they're dried thoroughly, because you don't get like clipper lines. Also, hot oiling and using like a detangling product on the coat can also be really helpful if you don't have access to like a hot horse shower. But that is the key to not getting the lines. And the cover coat blades by Lister, really recommend them. I thought they've been fantastic for Finley. The next battle we've had is trying to keep his shoulders from rubbing, and it's just making sure you have a rug that fits and doesn't rub, basically. And I also put hot oil on my hands and like rub it into his mane and into his shoulders to try and prevent the mane from rubbing out and the shoulder from rubbing out. You can see here it is thin, and it always has been thin. It's not going to grow like now, but I just try and make sure that this mane gets air. So I fold his neck down in the day so his mane gets a little bit of air, and I put oil and lots of detangler into the mane, and I try and keep the mane clean, even though it is quite dirty right now. It is due a bath. So they're kind of my top tips for prepping a horse for some winter competitions. So I also had a little bit of a practice doing some makeup around Finley's eyes, and just seeing what products really work on his coat, because obviously this isn't his summer coat. I find that oilier products just generally work better. So I just had a little bit of a play with that, and also having a play with quarter marks and whether I could get any out on his coat with this sort of level of fur. So in the winter time, the school freezes quite a lot. The road out of the yard is also super icy, so I literally just have to take whatever I can get. And my tip would be to ride any day you can, because you never know when there's going to be like a huge ice blast and you're not going to be able to ride. Also, I ride in the fields in any days where the school is frozen, and just to do as much schooling as I can or working with the horses in the time I have, because you know it gets dark early, it's miserable, it's rainy, it's snowy, we lose a lot of motivation. So I keep myself a little planner, and I try to ride every single day when it is physically possible. I also kind of like to reflect back on the summer and look at some of the footage and videos from me competing in the summer and kind of find things to improve on. I obviously film most of the shows I go to, and I can kind of look back and go, okay, we need to work on transitions, we need to work on whatever. With Finley, I need to get him to stretch forwards into the contact more. So this is something we have been working on so much, and I think there's a huge difference in this video. Compared to like some of the summer showing videos, he's actually so much more softer into the hand. So just finding things to work on for your winter show and kind of thinking, okay, we did this in the summer, what can we improve on? I found that super helpful and made me more motivated. And let's face it, in the winter you just feel really meh a lot of the time, and it's miserable, it's grey, and you feel so like it's so easy to just be like, yeah, I'm not going to ride today. So I think it is really important to set yourself some targets, get some lessons, and just focus on where you want to go like next year, which I know is like, well, it's not ages away, but it is coming around the corner. So just give yourself some targets and stuff. And I like watching like lots of dressage, practicing dressage tests, just giving yourself lots to do, exercises and training, to just motivate yourself to keep riding, even if it's just like 10 minutes in the school followed by a little hack. Yeah, just keep going. And just like that, it's pitch black, it's been raining, and it's like a little hurricane up there. It's just absolutely hideous. But I've ridden, and the last thing I wanted to say about preparing for a winter competition is your feeding. Now I try and measure my horses like every month basically, and try and make sure they're maintaining their summer condition. Obviously they're out in the field, but there's no grass, they have unlimited hay, but they're going to drop a bit of condition because they're not being ridden as much. They're a little bit chilly at times, they're out in the weather conditions which aren't very nice. So I try and keep Finley around the 550 mark and Donnie around the 670 mark, because that's what they are in the summer. So I have just upped their feed ever so slightly to try and maintain a good condition, and this is what I'm feeding them. Due to Donnie being on ulcers, we've had to swap to a mash based feed. God, it is so dark in there, I am so sorry. They're on the Veteran Light. They get 1 scoop of that, because this is what was recommended to us when Donnie first had the ulcers. But as there is literally nothing in that, we have just started to mix in some of the Soothe and Gain by Allen and Page, which is another mash-based product. There we go. Suitable for horses who have ulcers and need a little bit of lining in their tummy, but also some condition. So they're having that, and they both have exactly the same because they fight and get each other's foods. In the evening I can change it slightly because they come in the stables for their evening feed, but in the mornings they will just fight over each other's food. And this is just some plain chaff with nothing in it. I think this is the one by, is it called Meadowbricks? Yeah. And that's basically it. And then I just wet them, and as you can see, for me these are quite big portions, as in the summer they literally get like half of that. But yeah, that is their food for winter. Hope you have enjoyed this vlog. Unfortunately we have run out of light and time, so my next vlog I will be at the London International Horse Show, and hopefully we'll get some really good behind the scenes footage of the stables, etc. at the show. So thank you guys for watching, and if you have any questions please do add them in the comments. I will see you all next week. Bye.